I know the whole GameStop stock bubble with Reddit versus Wall Street, it's all old news at this point. But let me tell you this right now. It's not over. Why is that? Well, because this whole GameStop saga is just a taste of what's to come. And whether you participated in buying GameStop stock or not, this is going to be an important video that you need to watch. And that's because markets are changing, so you need to know how to adapt so that you could still grow your money while protecting it. Now, we all know what happened with GameStop, right? Shot up like 2,500% in just a few days, and then it proceeded to collapse almost 90%. And again, just a few days. Crazy, crazy wild ride. But like I said, this is just the beginning for situations like what happened in GameStop. And the reason why is because we've seen three big changes in the market that is going to lead to more and more GameStops in the future. First one is this whole fintech wave, and fintech is financial technology. How many companies have you seen step into the financial space? So many. And what's their goal? To make finance available to everyone. And that takes different forms depending on what they're focused on. There's banking, there's trading, which is the most important for this video. And what do we know? They made trading super easy, no cost. All you gotta do is download an app. And it's good in the sense that it does make it easier for people to get involved in the stock market, which is important. And as they keep making these innovations, more and more people are gonna flood in. Now, even though that's partly a good thing, it's also a double-edged sword, because more people that aren't experienced and don't know what they're doing, they're gonna cause more bubbles just like the one we saw in GameStop. Everyone's a sucker when they first start trading because you don't know any better. It's not an easy game. Same thing happened to me. So if you have all these people onboarding now who have never traded before, again, it's just more fuel for more bubbles. So that's reason number one. And reason number two is social media. We've talked about this before, but the speed of markets is much faster than it's ever been. And that's because we are all so hyper connected. So even when you try to compare the huge stock market bubble that we're in right now compared to 2008 or 2000, social media is a much, much bigger part of that, which again, you saw with GameStop, the whole pump. You know, this was all over the news, all over Reddit, and everyone is glued to their phones. So as soon as one person knows something, the other people know too, which again is good because there's not as much of an informational barrier, but it can also be bad because of these stock pumps like the ones we saw in GameStop. So the rapid pace which markets are moving at now, that's going to contribute to more and more of these bubble-like movements. And like I said, these are very fast. Look at this GameStop bubble. Happened what, in a few weeks? And then it collapsed even faster. So when I say markets are changing, I don't mean the first principles are changing. We've always had bubbles, we've always had mania going back forever. But the speed at which they're happening, technology is for sure influencing that. And sadly, yeah, technology does not make us humans smarter. We are still so emotional. If anything, more emotional. You see how crazy people get when they don't have their real name on Twitter or any social media, how they will attack other people, all emotionally fueled. That applies to the stock market as well. Now, the third change in this market is just the general environment. And by that, I mean the macro environment. So what is the Fed doing? They're pumping non-stop liquidity into these markets, printing, printing, printing. On top of that, you got a government that is sending out stimulus checks to people. And now that Biden is the president, you're going to see even more of that. So if there's a ton of money in the economy, more money going into people's pockets, free money, a lot of that is going to go straight into the stock market, especially when you go back to my point number one, which is all these fintech companies making it so much easier to do that. There are companies advertising their technology to get your stimulus check directly deposited into your trading account. So not to pay rent or anything like that, but to put into the stock market. So all of this together, these three reasons, fintech, social media, and then the general macro environment of tons of liquidity, that's what brings us to this crazy bubble market that we're in, where we're going to see more and more GameStops. So as I said, it's not over. So let's break down this GameStop saga to see what we can learn from it. And I don't mean about what happened, because we've had too many videos about that. I'm talking more about how people reacted. And we got to use that as a lesson of what not to do if more and more of these GameStops are coming. So the Wall Street Journal had a pretty good article recently about these GameStop investors who bet big, but then lost big too. Because yeah, we love to talk about all the people who won a bunch of money, but in reality, more people lost than won. And they lost big, which is what happens in every bubble. So Salvador Vergara is our first example from this article. He took out a $20,000 personal loan and used it to purchase GameStop shares. And as soon as he did that, the stock plunged 80%. So again, we're trying to figure out things not to do, right? In this new market, well, there's one right there. Do not be taking personal loans to put into the stock market. Don't borrow money to invest. Unless you have 20 years in the game and you're an absolute expert and you do this professionally, you are not good enough enough to work off borrowed money. It's the same idea of working off a margin. Nobody should be on margin unless you are a professional. And you don't need to. You don't need margin to make good money. And that's the thing. Even before you think about the stock market, you need to get your personal finances in order. And one of the main ideas there is don't borrow money to invest. It's way too risky. So Mr. Vergara here, he's a 25-year-old security guard in Virginia. He started investing 4 years ago, so yeah, not an expert by any means. Even after 4 years, which I know some people are thinking like, oh, 4 years, that's a long time. How long does it take to become a doctor? You should apply that same amount of time to how long it takes to become good in the stock market. Just because it's super accessible now doesn't mean it's easy. You wouldn't let just anyone cut you up and do surgery on you, right? It's the same idea with the market. But he started investing 4 years ago after deciding he wanted to retire young. And to save money, he drives a 98 Honda Civic and eats lots of rice and lives with his dad. So here's another personal finance thing. Why are you eating rice to save money? And maybe I'm wrong here, which is why I'm not a personal finance channel, but I'm pretty sure the best way to save more money is to make more money. So instead of skimping on purchases, like eating something other than rice, maybe you should work on negotiation tactics to get your salary higher, or learn how to code in your free time and switch jobs. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things you can do to increase your income. The worst thing to try and do is save your way to becoming wealthy. What's the point of life if you're a slave to your own money, saving and pinching pennies constantly? But anyway, he stashes savings mostly in diversified index funds, which are now valued at about $50,000. That is smart. Index funds for most people are the way to go, because I truly believe if you're not going to do this professionally, then don't get involved in the first place, because it's not a game. Now with GameStop, he didn't want to take any money out of his index fund investments, which is good. That was a smart move. But then here's the dumb move. Instead, he got a personal loan with 11.19 interest rate. And that's what he used to purchase the GameStop shares. So he almost did it right here. Don't touch your main life savings. For example, if you wanted to get into this GameStop thing or the next bubble that happens. Instead, use a small amount of money. You could play the game the same as everyone else, but realizing that you're doing it with a small amount and it is just a game. But he screwed up here. If he has $50,000 total saved and he takes out a loan for $20,000 to put in GameStop instead of like $100 that he has lying around, then you're asking to get smacked. He said, I thought I could go up to $1,000. I really believed in that hype, which is an awful thing to do. And yeah, you know the lesson right there. Avoid FOMO, the fear of missing out. There was so much hype around this because, again, of that reason number 2, social media, that a lot of people got sucked in, had no idea what they were doing, but they couldn't control themselves. Not saying it's easy to control yourself because of all the hype, but it's what you gotta do if you're gonna be in the market. You can't let your emotions get in the way of strict trading, which we're gonna talk about more in a second here. Now at this point, he plans to hold on to this shares because he believes in the company's turnaround, and he's gonna use his paycheck to cover the monthly payments on the personal loan. That right there is not a good move. And again, I guess I don't know what research this guy did, but generally you should always cut your losses, not hold on and hope that the thing turns around. And once again, that goes back to your emotions and psychology. Can you actually take that loss? Can you get out of it? Most people, no. They just hold on and hope it comes back, and it never does, and they just lose more and more and more. Stock market isn't easy. There's a reason why so many people fail at it. Once the pandemic is over, he hopes to move back to his native Philippines, live off savings, and start a charity. The GameStop loss set those plans back about 6 months, he said. I don't know how he's calculating this 6 months, because if you had $50,000 saved and you took out a $20,000 personal loan, you put it into a stock that plummeted. Now you got to pay the interest on that loan plus the original amount. And then your salary isn't crazy high if you're a security guard. So how is that 6 months? I don't know, but good luck to him. Article goes on to talk about the free trading and simple to use apps that have made it so much easier for regular investors to pour money into stocks like GameStop. And we're living in a world right now without international travel, no live entertainment, and the other usual pastimes aren't there. So brokerage apps like Robinhood are drawing in hordes of new users looking for both a diversion and a jackpot. So I guess that's one thing I should mention. Once we are out of this pandemic, maybe the market slows down a bit because a lot of people are forced in out of boredom. There's nothing else to do. And this isn't just the stock market either. Sports gambling is becoming really big again. In Michigan, where I live, it just became legal. Dave Portnoy from Barstool, he was over here. He still is, I think, promoting this. But everyone released their sports books, right? Every casino. Barstool did as well. And the bets that they're giving people are insane. So here's one of the bets that I saw, and these commercials are everywhere. Bet $1 and win $100 if any team scores a three-pointer in tonight's game. It's a no-brainer. Of course you're going to take that bet. So people are downloading these apps just like they did for Robinhood and getting sucked into gambling, which was how most people were treating the stock market too. And now you're mixing the addiction of social media and your phone with gambling, which is already an old school addiction. I remember growing up seeing way more commercials about, hey, do you have a gambling problem? Call this number. Same thing with billboards on the way to the airport. And I've have a feeling that it's going to come back strong. All that government work to try to prevent people from gambling, or if they have problems, get help. It really is getting crazy out here. Another example is this Patrick Wasalski, or Wasalowski? Whatever it is, he used to check his portfolio once a week. But then because of the pandemic, his dog walking business was getting hurt because people are at home, they don't need him. So at 31, he started spending more time researching stocks for his $15,000 portfolio. So in recent months, once he started doing that, he realized that, hey, he was checking his smartphone a lot more often to check on his Fidelity account. And then when he finally got into GameStop, he was checking his portfolio on his phone every 10 minutes. So here's another lesson right here. With successful investing, you actually want to stay as far away from the market as possible because you are constantly fighting that addiction. The market was already addiction, gambling already addiction, like we just talked about. And now you have your phone with the notifications and it's just a perfect storm. And the more you stare at your portfolio and the numbers going up and down, the more likely you are to make a stupid decision, to overtrade, to do something stupid that you didn't want to do. But when you're glued to the thing the whole day, it's going to happen. That's why with our Fallible system, we talk about how it only takes 15 minutes a week to execute. And that's not just bragging about the time efficiency, but the other benefit is that you can step away from the market so you don't do something stupid. I look at the market once a week, apart from me doing these videos. But someone using our Fallible system, it's the same idea. Just don't look at the market at all. Have it all automated so that you get the alert, and that's the only time you go in and make a decision. And actually, you're not even making a decision. The decision is already made for you. So it's just the execution. But the rest of the time you are away from the market, you aren't staring at the screens, you aren't driving yourself crazy because it will screw you up mentally. Just like social media has done. There's so many studies about it. Stock market, same thing. Watching that little tape go up and down, checking your balance constantly. It's not good for you and it's not good for your wallet. And you see, this is a great example of this guy right here. Went from checking his portfolio once a week to way more often to every 10 minutes. Not good. One thing he did do well though is say that, hey, if I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose this money. It's okay. It's like I'm going to Vegas. And that's what I was talking about before. If you were going to invest in one of these bubbles like GameStop or whatever one is coming in the future, realize what you're doing. Realize it's gambling. Like this guy said, this is the same amount of money he would have put towards a vacation. So he separated it from his total account. He knew what was going on, at least that much. So being real with yourself is good because if you want to gamble in the stock market, go for it. I don't have anything against that. It's just when you think you're investing, when you're really gambling and you're doing it with your life savings, well, then you're going to screw yourself. But here's the problem though. This same guy was treating this GameStop as a way to stick hedge funds with losses. It was his virtual protest, he said. 2020, really rough year, obviously. Everything was shut down and this guy's an artist who lost most of his income from selling his work at comic conventions. He also came down with COVID itself, which left him coughing for months. So GameStop again was more of a populist movement too, to stick it to Wall Street. He talks about some of his most recent art, which was inspired by Diamond Hands. And he's actually going to keep his GameStop shares as a memento. It's going to be a little reminder to me, he said, of how 2020 was the year when hedge funds had a great year and everyone else was struggling. Here's the problem with that. It definitely sounds cool, right? We all love seeing Reddit take on Wall Street and all those Wall Street hedge funds get smacked. But in reality, if you're actually trying to invest your money in the stock market, you need to take out all your emotions and your personal thoughts. Don't try to prove anything in the stock market. The stock market is for one thing, making money, and that's it. Don't take your personal battles there. Don't try to prove to other people that you're smart because of your investments. Don't put your ego into it. Leave everything outside of it. You need to be a machine and just focus on your profits. What makes money? Do that. And that's the problem with the stock market as well. People use it as a medium for everything else. I want to show off to my friends that I could pick the best stocks and I'm the smartest. Take that mentality to the stock market and you're going to lose money. So even this whole virtual protest populist thing, which I personally like, I like Wall Street getting it, I still won't participate in because I know the stock market is not a place for all of that. It's just a place to grow your money. Now, like I said, this stuff is going to keep happening. These mini bubbles like GameStop, there are more coming. The market is changing. So in addition to everything we said, there is another super important thing that you need to do to be able to protect and grow your money in these new markets. It's actually more important than what we talked about here, but it's a bigger topic that I had to make a whole nother video for. Now, if you want to watch that video, click right here. And I'm telling you right now, if you want to be successful in this new market over the long term, then you're absolutely going to want to watch it. So click this link right here and I will see you in that video.